Hello and welcome everyone. In today's lecture number 3, we are going to have a look at the implementation part of vectors. We have gone through the theoretical part in lecture 2 and lecture 1 of arrays and vectors. But in this video, we are going to see how we can implement ourselves the vectors. So for that, we will create a new folder. So now we have created a C program file and named it as vector.c++. I will increase the font size so that we can clearly see what we are going through. First, we will have to create the framework, the basic framework for C++, because we are going to implement it in C++. Now, as we have included our input-output stream and given the standard namespace, now we will create so this actually is a template for any class that we are going to write. Right now we are going to implement our own vectors. The first part, this template part, this defines that the thing which we are going to define is a template. This type name defines that the type name is going to be this name. So for any data type which we want, we are going to use this object as our variable to replace that. In the implementation, what will happen that we do not need to create the code again and again for all the different data types. We will have to do it only for one data type, for only this template data type, and this data type will get replaced by the data type whichever we will call it by. So let me show you. Let's first create a class that is going to be our custom vectors class. Now in our custom vector class, we need to give some values, or we can say some variables that will store the data. First will be an integer that will contain the exact size of the array. As we have discussed earlier, the array will comprise of different size. The array will comprise of some size, and the number of elements that are present there, that will be this size. So this size, this variable will denote the total number of items present in our array. Now we will also give a spare capacity integer that will be just a variable. The next variable will be our int capacity. This int capacity defines the total capacity of the array. The total capacity of the array means the total number of available spaces in that array for our data, for whichever data we are going to store. The last part will be our array itself. The vectors. The vector is nothing but a dynamic array. So the array, we need to initiate some array that will store the data. So for that, we will have to give the data type. Here, as we discussed, this object will be used in place of the data type. So here the data type is object data type, which is coming from our template, and then we will have to define a pointer, because we are going to create an array while we do the construction. So the constructor will create an array and this object will point to that array. Now After all this done, what we need to do is going to be private, because the data we do not want to give or make it publicly available. Now the constructor part will need to be public. Now the custom vector constructor, it will take an integer of initial size. So give it any value. First let us give it a value of 0 in case we are not giving any value to the constructor. So what will happen, it will create an array, a vector of size 0. Now from the class we know that we have to use this to point to the data or the variables which are present in this class. The size will be initiated to initial size. Why so? Because in the initial size, if say for example our our vector is of some fixed size, we are giving that in the constructor itself, the size 2 or 3 or 4, whichever, then what will happen, it will replace the size with that and the initiation will happen thus so. But in our case, this is only for general purpose. We are just gonna see the implementation of a vector in a flow. So this part is going to be 0 only, because we are not making any copy constructor or move constructor. So now the init size part will give the size variable its initial size. Now we have to give the total capacity of the array which we need to define, and that will be equal to the initial size, that will be the size, plus the spare capacity which we already have. So spare capacity we have defined for now as 5. That means whenever we will initiate our custom vector class, it will create an array of total capacity equal to initial size that we are going to give plus the spare capacity. The last part will be the object part. Object is actually a pointer to the array, so we will have to create a new array, and that array will have the capacity or the size equal to the capacity present. This was all about the constructor. So this constructor will create an instance of the vector which will have some initial size, some total capacity, and an array which will be of total size equal to that. But in this we have done a mistake. We have forgotten to include our data type. So here our data type is object. So after new, the data type will be object and the array will be of the given size, the capacity. Hopefully this was clear. Now moving forward, now we need to include the functionalities that a vector always have. As we have discussed in our earlier videos, vector will have a functionality of resize. What resize does, that it will always resize the array once the initial array which we are using is full. So how we will implement this part, let us see. So we are going to give it a size to which we are going to initiate, or we are going to create the new array of new size. The total size will be new size. Now as we have passed this variable, we will carry forward this variable and check it if new size which we want is actually greater than the capacity. Then only we are going to do it, else we will return. So for this case, less than equal to, we will simply return. We will not do anything. In other cases in which new size is actually greater than the initial size of the array, for those cases we have to create an array. We will name it as a temporary or new array for say. This new array will also be of data type object, because we are only creating another array which has an increased size. So the data type will be same, that is object data type. Now this will point or create a new object of size new size. So what we have done till now, we have checked the size. If it is greater, then we have created an array. Now, as we have discussed, we need to copy all the data from our initial array to this new array. For that, we will run a simple loop. Let us see why we have done this part. For our loop, we are starting from the 0th position of the new array till the size capacity of the last array, because for say there are 4 integers 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4 and 5 initially present, and the array got full. Now the new array which we have created is going to be greater than this size, the last size, because this new size is going to be greater. In that case only we are going to create a new array. So this is the new array which we have created. It does not contain any data. Now this is having a size of the variable the size. So the size variable will actually be equal to 4, because it is giving 4. So the loop will run from 0 to 3. In this case it will run from 0 to 3. So 0th position, 1st position, 2nd position and 3rd position. So in our new array, what we are going to do, just copy the data from here to here. So it will be 2, then it will get 3 and so on. So we will implement that functionality now. How we will do that? That's very simple. We just need to assign new array ith position, because we are looping, will get equal to this object ith position, right? Yeah. So this will simply copy the data from there to here. Now one more thing, as we have discussed, once the new array is initiated, we need to shift the object pointer to the new array pointer. So this new array, this object will now point at this new array. So simply we will do assignment part, and then we are done with that. One more thing we need to do is to change the capacity, because the capacity here will now be equal to the new size. Why so? Because we have increased the total capacity, as it was full in our last case. Now we have created a new array of new size, so the capacity is going to be this new size, so that will be replaced. Hopefully that was clear. This was all about the resize functionality that will be implemented every time the array is full and we try to add more data to our array. Now this resize function itself will give the property will create a vector from array. Now in our vectors we have some other functions as well, that is add function and remove function. So what add function does, that it adds the data to the end of the array, the last available position of the array, and the remove function simply removes from the end of the array. So here in this case, if we are in this 2, 3, 4, 5 array, if you want to add anything, then it will be added after this, that will be 6 if there is position. If there is no position, the array is full, in those cases it will first resize, then it will copy like this, and then it will create some extra spaces, vacant spaces for new data, as the resize function has worked. Now this resize, now we have available space, so the data will be pushed to this available space 6 like this. So this was the push or add function that we are going to implement now. So in the add function, let's name it add back. That we will pass the object that we need to insert into the array, and we'll name it as int value itself, because we are giving a value, so we will add this value to the end. Now for adding every time, we need to check if these two variables, the size and the capacity, are equal. Why so? In that case only the data this variable gives total number of elements present or objects present in our array, and this gives the total capacity available. So if size is equal to capacity, that means total array is fully occupied, the array is fully occupied, and for that case what we will do? Yeah, resize it. So we will have to check this, the capacity is equal to this, the size. In that case we will have to do resize, and we will have to pass the new size. So what vector does, it simply doubles the available space every time it gets full. So the capacity into 2. Why 2? Because we are doubling the size. So this was the last size, it is multiplied by 2 and it is given to the resize variable. Now it will go, the double the size of initial size will be the new size, it will create an array, and thus it will do our task. Now we have checked and created an array for adding function. If the adding is working fine, this part has been done, I mean the resize has been done. Now what we need to do? Simply add the function, or sorry, add the value at the end of the data. Object the size equal to value which we have given. So what we are doing, the size is actually the size of the variable and the total number of elements present. So that will be the index to add the last element. Say for example here, in this case we have the size equal to 4, right? Because there were 4 elements. To add anything, the index of 5th position is actually 4 itself, so it is equal to the size. So the size will be the index of the last element. So that is what we are doing, and then we are giving it a value that we are passing. So this value which we are passing will get passed here. So for example we have passed 6 lastly, so it will get copied here. Now one more thing need to be kept in mind, the size has now increased because it was initially 4, now after adding it has become 5. So we need to do the size plus plus, and it is done. So this was all about the add function. One thing to notice, the resize and add back functions are not returning anything, so the return data type will be void. Now last part, we will also implement the remove back or pop back function. We do not need to pass anything, because in this case what we are doing is simply removing the last element. What will it do is, if this size is greater than or equal to greater than 0, because if we are checking that elements are present there, so simply in those cases what we will do, we will return the last element from the object array. Last element will be the size element, but first we need to reduce it, because the size is actually the last as we have discussed, just let me show you an example again. In this case, the size here is 6. So to remove this part, it is having the size here is 5 and the index of this is 4. So to once we need to remove it, what we do is we reduce the size. Okay, reduce the variable the size by 1 and then return that size itself. There is one more thing to be kept in mind. For the cases when the size is equal to 0, like there is no element, in that case we cannot implement the popback function because it will throw an error of index outbound because there is no element present in the array. We can skip this part because for the return we will have to do throw catch error to check that case. So we are not going to implement that part as of now, but for understanding, hopefully this was clear. Now next we're going to do is just add a print function to print the elements present in our array. So this print function will simply print the value to the screen. Now as we have completed our class, we need to close the class. Here it has been closed. We will create the main function and check how it's working. Now once we have created the class with templates, here as we have used templates, what we need to do is to use the brackets. In this bracket we need to give the data type. While initializing our vector, that instant need to be given the object or the data type. So for now we are taking integers because we are creating a vector of integers. We will call it v. So our v vector is of data type integers. Now to add any data to it, let us make it an array 2, 4, 5, 10 and 100. To make it as such, we will have to do v dot add back functionality multiple times. Why multiple times? Because we are adding different data every time. So for now we will do simple. Yeah. So what we will do, we will just replace the value here to the required values, that is equal to 2, 4, 5, 10 and 100. Now once this is done properly, it will not show anything to the screen because we have not done the print part. We are implementing the vector, saving the data in the vector, but we are not outputting anything on the screen. So to do that, we will do the print function, and now we will save it and run the code. As we can see, 2, 4, 5, 10 and 100. So what this print function is doing, it's looping over the array and printing out every value present. Now to check the pop function, v dot popback, and as it is giving return a value, we can print that to the screen as well to check what it is giving. Pop value equal to this part, and so save it and run it. So here you can see 2, 4, 5, 10 and 100. So this is printing the value till here. The vector which we have created is containing these values, and now we have popped out the last value. The last value is 100. Now to check it again, that what is now the value of the content of our vector, we will print it again just by giving giving this dashes for differentiating the data for understanding. So now here you can see, once we have initiated and created the array, it is containing 2, 4, 5, 10 and 100, and then we popped the value out, that was 100. Then again, once we print, we found that 100 is not available there, it has been removed. So this was all about vectors. For now it is working fine. Let us check that it is resizing or not. To check it, just we will add a print function, I am resizing, and then \n for next line. As we have given our initial size of 5, hopefully for this 4 data it will not do anything, because we are adding 5 only, so the initial size is 5. Let us remove this pop function and add back this. Now, so what we have done, we have given 6 values, 2, 4, 5, 10, 100, again 100. So once this 5 is done, it is going to do resize. Let us check it. So we can see here, I am resizing. It is printing that I am resizing. Let us check it. So what we will do, we will print it twice. Why twice? Let us show you. So see, for the first print, it is not showing I am resizing, but for the second print, once we have added this 100, it is now showing I am resizing. So now it has resized and added all the values, created an array of double the size, and then added 100. So this was all about vectors. Hopefully you guys enjoyed learning about vectors. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss about linked list. Thank you and keep learning. Please don't forget to hit the like, share and subscribe button.